Hey guys, you're watching Let's Talk About Prepping. I'm Tyler, your host, and in this video, we're going to do a little taste test experiment as a follow-up to one of my past videos. Some of you might remember my Rusk videos from the past where I was trying to see if I could turn bread into a long-term dry food storage option. The reason I was doing this is because I often have large amounts of bread available to me. It usually goes to the homeless shelter, but sometimes they fail to pick it up, and when they do, I often think about what I could do to turn dozens of loaves of already baked free bread into long-term storage. Now, at the beginning of this experiment, I was using a vinegar, salt, and thyme solution to see if I could extend the shelf life of the baked bread. But between all of the extra baking that this entailed and the investment of the materials itself, I threw this option out the window very quickly. This experiment is already on the verge of not being worth it, and I really just want to see if I can get a good chunk of extra bread for cheap put aside as a filler or a giveaway option for in the future. And I really just want to see if I can get it to last about a year. Now, while I was doing this experiment, I really just ran out of time. A lot of life and work responsibilities came up. So what I ended up doing was crumbing and thrice baking the bread and then setting it aside in Ziploc baggies in the garage. I had planned on putting it with vacuum sealing pouches inside of Mylar. And I might do that again in the future when I do have the time to implement this properly. But what we're going to do today is see how the bread tastes after sitting in my garage for probably a month or two in just Ziploc baggies out in the open without vacuum sealing or any other options. Now, as you'll see, you can tell that the bread is still extremely dry and crumbly like croutons. And it smells almost exactly like it did when it came out of the oven, just an extremely dry wheat bread smell. I just snorted a little bit of it, and it doesn't really smell rancid. Now there is a little bit of a stale oil smell to it, but let's find out. While it's not exactly appetizing because it's just plain wheat bread from a sourdough base, baked into oblivion and then stored in a garage for a couple months, there's nothing unpalatable about it. It's exactly what you would expect them to taste like, even out of the bag. Probably tastes better than some vegan options. So from the perspective of having this free and just having to crumb it, bake it, and throw it in the Ziploc baggies and having it last a couple months, I could even just do that and cycle it out just over this period of time. But I might even think about doing this and putting it into Mylar and extending the shelf life of it to maybe even a year and running that experiment, because I'm pretty surprised that just letting it sit here in a completely uncontrolled environment has been a pretty decent option. Anyways, I hope that was interesting. I hope that it gets some of you guys thinking, because I know that a lot of us sort of thought that bread would go rancid or moldy over a short period of time outside of a freezer or a fridge. Now, I know some of you did mention the crouton option, and thanks for that advice. I do think that this is actually a pretty good way to get some bread to store for even longer than you think if you have it available to you. And seeing as how I literally can have up to 20 or 30 pounds available to me of wet bread, this is a pretty decent option for me to just take home, run through my food processor there, and bake up when I have the time available at the same time as the bread. Anyways, hope it was interesting. Hope you guys are all doing well out there. Everybody stay safe.